Why should you delve into the Torah again and again and again? That's what we do. We're reading the same book of Torah again and again, the weekly Torah portion every week, every year. Why should you do that? Ben Bagbag gives us a great reason. You know why? Because everything is in the Torah. That's why he says, turn it over again and again. Delve into it because you'll find everything there. And this week's Torah portion is no exception. Not at all. What are we going to learn about? Well, there's an enormous amount to learn, but we're going to learn how to forge deep ideas into the memories of young and old. Forging deep ideas into the memories of young and old for thousands of years. So let me just tell you the format that we're going to take now from this point. You're going to end up with the famous thing everyone wants for Shabbos, a word for the table. But we're also going to have a mitzvah for the table. That's what we're going to do. And how we're going to go about this. First, we'll take a look at the source in the Torah, the mitzvah of the week, for in our eyes, the mitzvah of the week. We'll start with that. You'll see the source. And then I'll try to give you a word for the table, meaning a very deep insight into that piece of Torah. And then we'll go to the mitzvah for the table. We'll take that same pasuk, that same Torah verse, and then we'll show you, we'll unravel the mitzvah there that you can fulfill. Actually, you can fulfill tonight and you can fulfill for the rest of your life, but you'll also have a mitzvah for the table. Okay? Without further ado, let's get started with that. And I'm going to show you the source in the Torah that we're going to discuss. In Parsha Bo, the weekly Torah portion, we're going to see the last three of the 10 commandments. And here we are. This is the very beginning of the Parsha, which discusses that Hashem instructs Moshe he should go see Paro. But why? Because Hashem has hardened his heart and the heart of his upper echelon. And Hashem explains why he's hardening Paro's heart. He says, because Hashem wants to display his signs amongst the Egyptians, the Mitzrayim, the Jewish slaves. He wants everyone to see some signs. That's the first pasuk. And now here comes the pasuk with the mitzvah of the Parsha. It says here, and I'll read it first in Hebrew, the second verse. L'man tisaper ba'azne bincha uven bincha esa. Okay, to Hashem is saying, why do I want to harden his heart, and why do I want to bring out these signs in front of him? Because I want you to be able to tell this story, the saper, to relate. Now, remember the word sipor, which means story. Sometimes people think of a story as something that's not real, okay? This is nonfiction. The stories in the Torah are nonfiction. They're real. So Hashem wants us to be able to relate this story into the ears of your children and your grandchildren. You hear that? There's a mitzvah to relate things to your grandchildren. Everybody who, first you should have a wife, and then you should have children, and you should be blessed to have grandchildren. Okay, but we're seeing that these miracles that are about to happen are for you, your ability to relate that. Okay, now I'm going to jump to the end of the pasuk. Why are you relating about these signs? Okay. First of all, to make a mockery of evil. That's one of the things. But the end is what we're going to focus on. V'yadatim ki ani Adonai. That you will know. And the word know means you will be deeply connected. You'll get deep awareness and knowledge that Hashem is God. We'll explain that in a minute, okay? So that's the pasuk. So now let me stop sharing for a sec. Now let's get a word for the table. And this word comes from the Orach Chaim HaKadosh. And here's also how you see everything's in the Torah. Because the Orach Chaim lays down a principle. He says that if you want to forge a deep idea into another person or also into yourself, he says it needs to be spectacular in two ways. It's not enough to be spectacular in one way. It has to be doubly spectacular. He brings a proof from the Gemara. I'm not going to go into that. But this is what we're going to discover. This is really the truth about all 10 plagues. And the plague we're going to focus on is the plague of the locusts for a certain reason. Oh, right. Yeah, I'll get to that in a minute. But listen to this. Here's how Hashem forged into Judaism, Jewish people, Christians, Muslims, humanity. Everyone's heard of the 10 plagues, correct? But how did Hashem do it? So let's discuss the two spectacular aspects of each of the 10 plagues. And part of it is 10. First one is the following. Let's say, the superficial look at the Exodus from Egypt, let's say you believe that God took us out. And as we said, the Torah is nonfiction. So even if you believe that, so how would you think it would be done? There's a war and the enemy is defeated, destroyed, defeated. What happens, right? The one side kills, shoots with arrow, with a gun, whatever it is. You have a weapon, and boom, you give them a blow, and if you give a blow to enough of them, they give up, they surrender, they bring out the white flag. Okay? That's how, if the Exodus was merely a military defeat, it would have the following thing. You would kill, or you would have the battle occurs, the battle's finished, or how many skirmishes it takes, and then they leave. Here's the two aspects, the two spectacular aspects. First of all, and again, we're talking about a divine being who does indeed make judgments and decisions and dishes out retribution if they're at times. So here, the first thing is that Hashem did not just deliver one blow. It's already spectacular. Obviously Hashem could have delivered one blow and then we go. There we go. One blow, we go. But instead, he delivered 10 blows before we goes. 10 blows, but not just that. If you study deeply the plagues according to the Torah Source and the Haggadah, you realize every blow, every plague, first of all, it wasn't just bang one day. It was an entire week. There was an entire week of no water, just blood, right? Locusts, etc. There was a week full of it. So in quantity, there wasn't just one blow. There's 10 blows. And each one lasted a week of that same blow. And we learned that there are 4 or 5 attached blows to each plague. Each plague had subsections that counted to 5, 4 or 5. It's a debate how many. But you hear this, there was at least 40 or 50. It wasn't really 10 blows. If you subdivide it, it was 40 or 50 blows for an entire year span and for an entire week. That's spectacular. It's if the Egyptians are observing what happened to their neighboring countries, no country experienced that, right? Maybe there was some sort of calamity and then they died and something happened. Not like that. So the first thing was quantitatively, it was spectacular. And then the nature of the blow was spectacular in itself. It was qualitatively spectacular, meaning to say that all of these, each and every one of these plagues was a defiance of nature, absolute defiance of nature. Now, why did Hashem do this in such a spectacular way? Again, here's something we have to inculcate. Sometimes you think, why are we always talking about Yitzias Mitzrayim? There's a very good reason why, because Hashem never again revealed such a series of defiance of nature, such a display that nature is just completely tenuous. The composition, it wasn't red water. The water turned chemically to blood. Every one of them was a spectacular defiance of nature. Why? Because this is only going to happen 1/2 times. This is never going to happen again until the final redemption. Okay? Final redemption, that's coming. But Hashem says, I'm only displaying this one time, one set of time, 1 year. And from now on, you will have to delve into it again and again and derive your belief and emunah from this act. You might say, why? The answer is believing in the unity of Hashem, believing in the divine providence is a mitzvah. So mitzvahs involve work. Hashem says, I'm going to display it one time, and now it's for you and your children and your grandchildren to internalize this. This is it, okay? So that's the deep insight. The deep insight to review is that the plagues were a one-time display of an absolute defiance of nature, a revelation that would never came. So Hashem designed them to be doubly spectacular in quantity and quality to give us the ability to do the mitzvah we're about to hear about. Okay, let's go back to the screen. Okay, so we said you have relating to your children, your grandchildren, or just anybody is a big mitzvah. Now, let's understand the mitzvah more deeply. Okay, the mitzvah is relating these wonders and signs, so to your grandchildren, etc., to know Hashem. I was just reading the top here. The mitzvah includes relating it to your children and grandchildren. So that's already an aspect. If you have children and grandchildren, you can do this, right? By the way, wait a minute. It says students are children. So you got you all are my children for this class. And so I'm going to fulfill this mitzvah right in front of your eyes. You relate it to your children. But there's a mitzvah for children and grandchildren. That's one thing contained in this mitzvah of the week. Second, Hashem's signs, the particular mitzvah, according to many commentators, is the plague of locusts, because Hashem didn't introduce this mitzvah at the beginning of the 10 plagues. He introduced this mitzvah right before the plague of Arba, the Makkah of Arba, the plague of locusts. So the mitzvah behidder, in its ideal form, is you share miracles about the locusts. However, Reb Hamaner, the Eved HaMelech, learns every miracle of every one of the 10 plagues, you can fulfill this mitzvah d'oraisa. Now, this is one of those mitzvahs that knowing what the purpose of the mitzvah is very important. And that is, we're supposed to be able to instill in our children, our grandchildren, and ourselves Yichud Hashem, the absolute singularity, uniqueness of Hashem. There's no comparison. And that's why the plagues is a great, great opportunity to fulfill the mitzvah of recognizing the oneness of Hashem. There's no other force that has any independence. There's a one and only God. Okay? So we're about, right now we're going to learn this. So this is the main part of the mitzvah, is this. So when you do this mitzvah, and again, you don't have to wait for the Shabbos table for this mitzvah. You don't have to. You can do it as soon as the class is over. Go tell someone this, share this. By the way, if anyone would like the details that I'm displaying here so you can fulfill this mitzvah in its ideal way, just please email me at rabbiwegbreit@gmail.com. All right. So again, to review, the mitzvah includes it's to tell this story, right? To forge this story deep into our minds so that we'll attain a perception of the unity of Hashem, and in particular do it with the plague of locusts. So let's get ready to learn a few examples of miracles connected to the plague of locusts, Arba. All righty. So I highlight in this verse, it says, basically Hashem says, or Moshe speaks to Paro on behalf of Hashem, says, if you don't let my people go, that's the famous anthem, tomorrow I'm going to bring locusts on your border, or through your borders. Let's translate it as through your borders. Now, I just want to bring out something else. What is so unique? Have there been miracle makers and miracle claims throughout history? Of course there had. But you know what's unique about the miracles performed by Hashem? He calls them ahead of time, right? The exact time it will start, the exact time it will stop. Never, nothing ever has happened like that. And predictions again and again, prophecies coming true all the time to let us know the Torah is not nonfiction. Okay, but let's look at let's get some amazing details about the wondrous nature of the plagues. Okay, the reason that it says in the Torah that the locusts will be through your borders is it was so precise that it was an exact demarcation of the borders of Egypt. So if you were to witness, as they did, the plague of locusts, there wasn't even like an antenna of a locust, if they have antennas, that went past the border of Egypt. When Hashem says it's going to be within your borders, that was exactly it. And you could actually draw a perfect map from the locusts. Amazing, right? Picture that a little bit. Wondrous, okay? So that's the thing. Can anyone else do that? No, Hashem is one. Number two, there's another verse that you'll see in the Torah portion that says v'anach. It said this plague or the locust rested on the seventh day. Now it said they rested. It doesn't say on the seventh day, but the Midrash connects it exactly, and the Baal Turim explains this was the only plague where it just stopped on Shabbos. The locusts rested from work, if you will, from ravaging the country. Now, all the other plagues lasted a week. That's 7 days, all seven. But this was 24/6, not 24/7. That's another thing. It was miraculous because Hashem declared that they rested. And then the last one, there's so many. That's the beauty of our oral Torah. You know, we're so fortunate to have have received the Torah from Sinai and get the oral explanation because it's endless, right? Here's one more. The Hashem just completely removed the locusts after they had wreaked their havoc to try to get the Egyptians to and Paro let them go and to do tshuva. After that, but the Egyptians were the bright side is locusts were a delicacy. They would eat locusts. And because they would eat locusts, and this was a time finally after being warned so much it was time for punishment. So every locust disappeared. Now, most of the locusts disappeared in what you might say is a natural way, meaning a wind blew them away. But they had pickled locusts and locusts in jars and baskets. They all disappeared. There wasn't a single locust. They, in quotes, magically disappeared. All right. That's an example. Torah is anytime and anywhere. So you can do this work too. You can do it on any of the 10 plagues. Just delve into the details of the miracles, and you're fulfilling this, and you're making an impression, right? How do you imprint ideas? You have to do things that are spectacular, that grabs the attention of your children and your grandchildren and yourselves. Okay? Now, here's a bonus. So really, let me go back to this previous page. All you have to do to fulfill this mitzvah is to say, I have in mind to fulfill mitzvah of relating Hashem's wonders or signs as Hashem commands me. There you go. Tell anything about any miracle and you fulfilled it. But I know people who follow KLM, Kavanah Mitzvahs, you want as many mitzvahs as you can in an acronym, right? That's a rhetorical question, which is really a statement. So for those who want to go the extra level, this is the details plague. Here's an acronym to capture some more mitzvahs. 5 mitzvahs. There's 5 more mitzvahs. Okay, 5 mitzvahs in one acronym. Real one. Hashem is the real one, not Coca-Cola. Okay, R is for remembering Hashem's wonders, which is the source for that is in this end of the first paragraph of Aleinu. V'yadat hayom v'shevosa elevavecha ki Hashem hu Elokim mishamayim ba'al, etc. In other words, this is a recollection of a wonder, and that's part of that mitzvah is to remember. Anytime you speak about a miracle, and there's plenty going on right now in this war, but anytime you do that, you fulfill that mitzvah. Second, E for Emunah. That's probably not a surprise. Hashem wanted, because it was going to be a one-time revelation, he wanted to enable people to imprint this and strengthen their belief. When you hear that, and when you know that the Torah is nonfiction, and it says that the locust demarcated perfectly the borders, right? That has to increase your emunah in Hashem, your belief and knowledge of Hashem. Here's a beautiful thing that applies in so many places. We're going to A. So R is for remembering Hashem's wonders. E is for emunah in Hashem. A is for avos Hashem, loving Hashem. This is great news that the High Adam, the Kitzur Sefer Harim, the High Adam brings down that anytime you praise Hashem, you're fulfilling mitzvah of loving Hashem. Because think about it, when you adulate and praise someone, that's a sign you really love them, okay? It's certainly with Hashem. So that's remembering emunah and avos Hashem, loving Hashem. L, when you give this over, when you sipur, l'saper, when you tell the story, you're both learning Torah and teaching Torah. Okay, so that it's really 6 mitzvahs, okay. And then 1 stands for recognizing that Hashem is the one and only, Yichud Hashem, a profoundly important mitzvah. Okay, so to wrap up, let me just, you now have a word for the table, which is to see how everything I mean, there's such a lesson here about forging things in one's memory. They talk about memory palaces and using vivid imagery to help you remember something. So the author of reality, Hashem, also scripted a reality called the 10 plagues to make it that this will live on in the memory of humanity. Not everyone's heard about the 10 plagues. Okay, that's number one. That was the word for the table. And the mitzvah for the table is, and it's not just for the table, you can tell your wife, your husband, your friend, anybody, pass on, relate these miracles, and you're fulfilling a mitzvah, which means you'll be ensconced in Kedusha, you'll be helping the Jewish people in these very difficult times, and you will also be passing on or be ready to pass it on to other generations. Okay? So, I recommend do it every day of the week. Okay? Keep on doing this. Keep on integrating it. You'll thank me later, at least, on Mainstream. Okay, everybody. Good Shabbos.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I was thinking that the locusts were observing the Tchum Shabbos because they came from outside the Tchum.
Oh, that's very good. The border.
Yeah, I don't know if they came I don't know.
That's what you're saying. That's why they rested
Yeah, I
on
was suggesting perhaps. I don't know if that's.
I love that. That's a great idea. Beautiful. What about alias Steve Aronson? There he is.
Yes, I just wondered about, one thing that you were speaking is that Shinantan Levanecha. Where does that fit in?
Well, so the mitzvah was that Hashem said, I'm going to put these signs, bring these signs out in order that you relate them into the ears of your children and your children's children, your grandchildren. So it explicitly says this is something, in other words, this is addition to Leil Seder. Leil Seder, you have Haggadah Telebincha B'Yom Hahu. There's a mitzvah that night to get into it, but it doesn't stop there, really, anytime. So, and Hashem's explaining, I'm in particular doing these plagues in order that you'll have an incredible sipur, a vivid thing to insert into the ears and the hearts of your children and your grandchildren. So you hear that's the mitzvah of teaching. You're teaching Torah.
So it's are you fulfilling two Torah commandments by the one in Parshas Bo, right? Laman Tisaper and Vishinantan Levanecha?
Yes, that's what I'm doing in my Hashem is the real one. These are additional mitzvahs. So in addition to that specific thing is remembering the wonders, so you should add that intention. And then there's Emunah, Avos Hashem, because you're praising Hashem in the same act. And you're singing the praises of the one you love. And then finally, well, not finally, the L is learning and teaching, because when you give over Torah, you're learning it too, even when you're teaching it. You hear?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and just one other thing, you said, we could do this with every plague, right? Where should we look? Meaning beyond just the text and Rashi, where else would we look?
Right. So if you have access to the midrashim, right? The midrashim are amazing, but nowadays no one has to be limited if they don't have a midrash, they don't have Hebrew. They can go online and just Google, I suggest so you get a authentic Torah explanation, you should say Eser Makos, not 10 plagues. And you say the Nisim that took place with the locusts. You hear like that? And yeah, the Torah is at our fingertips in that sense.
Yeah, I think Art Scroll treats it very, does a lot on that.
Paris, so I think is about to, right? The thing's about to shut down now. No, God bless Harsco. How can I say anything? Harsco is going to put out a KLM book, please, God, in the right time.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Yishko. Thank you, Peretz. And thank
Thanks.
you, Rabbi Michael.
Yes, very good. Yesher koach, everybody.
Thank
Okay.
you as
Hey,
always.
guys.
What is Tov Norah? Thank you, Eva.
Okay, Amen.
Thank you,
Baruch.
Thank
Oh.
you.
Yom